Experts have been closely following the developments coming out from China during its political season that kicked off over the weekend. David Monyae, the director for the Center for Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg, says that during this time, the world can get to understand China more closely.
The two-session meeting is crucially important, I think, for China and the international community. I think for China, it is important because it brings in the important political bodies, the political advisory, as well as the legislative together to plan ahead for the year and to bring reforms and necessary appointments needed given domestic and international issues. And it is also important for the external players all over the world to fully understand China and understand the policies, the direction in which the country is going, and to adjust accordingly to countries' perspective foreign policies as well, interact with China in a constructive way. This year, it's quite important. It's a turning moment. I think the two-session comes after 3 gruesome years of pandemic, COVID-19. It comes at a time where tensions with the United States, as well as security threats within South China Sea, is increasing, I think, for China. And therefore, I think the Chinese political leadership will be looking and assessing these developments and really come up with the policies and adjust existing policies to deal with that. More importantly, the economy received hammering as much as other economies in the world. And therefore, the top leadership would be coming up with ways of rebooting the economy and ensuring that the strategic objectives set in the past and new objectives are achieved within the time frames. And finally, I think we'll see the appointment of a new leadership after the previous important meetings of the party. We're expecting new leadership in various positions. And this is quite an important for all those who follow China and fully understand where it stands with itself, where it stands with the world. I think the very first learning lesson for our continent, Africa, is planning, proper planning, and have a coordinated approach where you have your local, provincial, and national leadership coming together, as well as bringing in a collective of leaders, those in the advisory, political advisory area, as well as the legislators. These are important members of the ruling parties, and therefore, within Africa, I think there is a need to adjust the manner in which we plan and the manner in which we make this planning inclusive. And I think beyond the planning and the manner in which China does two-session, Africa should look at issues that are going to affect the continent itself. Whether it is the economy of China and how the Chinese are rebooting their own economy, how they are strategizing to deal with the shortcomings brought about by the COVID, as well as other challenges that China confronts. And therefore, I think Africa has so much to learn, and dealing in its own way, in its own context, learn, observe, and implement, more importantly, implement all plans that each African country out of 54 would do to improve the lives of their people